So, Dev Patel's Monkey Man is the directorial debut for Patel, who additionally stars in this action film, and it's one of those action films that it feels like it's trying to be more of its own thing. And I think what makes a film like Monkey Man work is the fact that it has that it has like the guts to go forward with the type of film that Patel wanted to make. And it feels like it could have easily just been like a kind of, just like another one of like the John Wick knockoffs. But in fact, even within like the context of the film, they actually do reference like John Wick as like, like a famous movie that a lot of people have seen, which feels like a little bit of a gamble because then, of course, everyone's going to be comparing to John Wick because, the John Wick films are basically like an action ballet and it's like they're astounding choreography there. But Monkey Man actually manages to be a little bit more of its own thing, and I think what makes the film work so much better, at least to like the screenplay, is that unlike John Wick, it actually takes place within a specific setting. It's not set in like kind of like a generic kind of like world of like power and violence. Like it's set in India, and it specifically targets like the politics of the region, while still commenting on like a story about like rebellion and just going forth with that, which Patel actually does pretty well here. So Dev Patel plays a nameless figure who goes by a few names. He's like, I think one of the names they gave to him is Kid because like we see a lot of footage from him when he was much younger with his mother living in a village. Most people in the underground wrestling ring know him as Monkey Man, which is an obvious moniker because he wears a monkey mask when he does battles in these more or less staged fights so that he can like take a dive and make some money along the way. And other people know him as Bobby, which is a name he just chooses, which they reveal that he just chose that name because it's a brand of bleach that he uses on the job. So Kid, or Monkey Man, however you want to refer to him as, he basically wants to get revenge on Rana, played by Sikandar Kher, who was responsible for the death of his mother. And we kind of get like some inklings of that early on, but then, there's more and more flashbacks are progressively revealed. Like, yes, this guy was responsible for the death of Monkey Man's mother. So he wants revenge. So he basically works his way up through this ritzy organization of corrupt officials and, gangsters and, bad cops who have all just kind of like taken in like the darker side of like the crime life, and he works his way up within the system in order to get closer and closer to kill Rana. So it's mostly a revenge thriller, that's like the bare bones of the script. Like obviously there's a little bit more to it, and of course, like with any great film, it's all about. It's not about what it is about, but how it goes about it. That old saying, which is like, how do you make this revenge thriller exciting? And Patel's performance, like it's a gritty performance. Like I think I have this feeling that because like Dev Patel put so much work into this performance and trying to seem like very very tough and strong, he wants you to see everything that he put into it. He wants you to see every muscle clench and every like pulsating bicep, every punch that's landed, every kick that's thrown, every knife that's jammed into the into like chests and faces and stuff like that. So the way that like Patel kind of directs this film is that he wants the camera to get up close. He wants to get up right up into like his face to show you all the blood, sweat, and tears that go into like this fight choreography. And it's a little bit of a gamble because most films that try to do kind of have that handheld technique where they get in really close and they shift the camera around really quickly and like they almost have like kind of like a POV of like one of the henchmen getting into this fight. It has that issue where it could just turn out like a blur. If it's not like properly handled or staged correctly, that it could just be like, almost kind of like a Michael Bay effect where it's just like forcing the camera all around. You can't keep track of where everything is. But thankfully, most of the camera work actually works pretty well. It does focus on the areas where I think Patel wanted to showcase where the violence was most brutal, the aspects that you want to focus on the most, and it keeps everything relatively in frame, where for the most part, it doesn't feel like you're getting lost within the carnage. There are a few moments where it blurs here and there, where you're kind of, where the camera's a little bit too handheld, like it's rocking back and forth just a little bit, where you can't quite tell what's going on. But every now and then it does like kind of even out, to kind of like reveal more of like the intensity that happens with these fights. And the fights are actually pretty cleverly staged. I mean, you have scenes where Dev Patel is like I think one of like the best stage scenes is the kitchen sequence, and I think that's just it's one of the best like consistently framed scenes for how well the camera holds on that scene where Monkey Man comes into this organization, throws pots and pans at people, like smashes bottles over their faces, takes someone's head and force it down onto a grill, and you get like the nice zoom in right on that. It's immaculately shot for that. There are other sequences though where it's not all like close-ups and extreme close-ups, and I think one of the best sequences for that is like there's a lounge fight where there's like a chandelier and there's a bar setting, and they do take a few breaks from like the handheld style to have like some nice kind of like long shots. There's a great shot where like Dev Patel is doing battle up on the bar, and he's got like the bottles behind him and the lighting behind him, which makes him kind of like silhouette. It looks really nice. There's a few cool scenes where you get like overhead shots where you can, you're basically peering over like the chandelier to watch all the carnage unfold. It's pretty well shot, and I think like there's it proceeds along like a fairly standard revenge thriller in terms of the beats. Because like I think like what sets this film apart is that Patel showcases a lot of representation within India that goes beyond just like the setting. Because like a lot of Indian films will just like use like the setting and like a few traits of their culture, but then mostly almost kind of keep it like innocuous so that it can work for an international crowd. And here, it feels like Monkey Man is like it's like the chains are off. Like he can be as critical of this society as he can. And that's like very blunt in a few scenes. There are some scenes where they cut around from like the carnage that's happening to like the poor people in the slums and the streets to show you like the huge divide of class that goes on within India. And it's absolutely blunt about what it's trying to say here about like the uneven nature of politics and how easily like embracing like this traditionalism and nationalism can disenfranchise people and drive people into revenge. This becomes like really overt once there's that down moment where like Monkey Man is semi-defeated, he makes his escape, and he's got to like gain back his strength and have like that obligatory training montage at a temple. And it's at a temple of I always pronounce, I'm going to try to pronounce this again. It's at a temple for a group of people known as the Ardhanarishvara. I swear I'm probably butchering that, but it's basically people who are more or less like between genders at that point, where it's like basically like men embracing like the feminine side, and they're not beholden to two genders. Like it's not quite like there's a little bit of like representation of like kind of like the trans movement, as well as like a non-binary. But more or less, it's people who are not gender conforming, who are discriminated against, who basically take in Monkey Man, and not only do they help him out, but Monkey Man helps them out as well by showing off like how to fight. And he like even during his training, he's like encouraging like, hey, why don't you come and fight alongside me and help me out on this quest for revenge. And since they're marginalized within this society, and like there's this election coming up and everything is tense with them right now, of course they're going to jump into it. And there's this great scene where all the members of the temple just dress up in like their finest garb and don like these vicious weapons and come to the aid of Monkey Man at just the right moment. And it's beautifully staged. Like it was so much fun to watch that sequence unfold. I especially like the cleverness of this film. in just like the staging of like the violence and the kills, but also just like the production design in general. Like the like it's not just like Rana that Monkey Man wants to defeat in this battle, but there's also, you know, like the big boss at the top here who's manipulating everything, which is Baba Shakti, played by Makaran Deshpatande. And I love his performance because he's basically this guy who like preaches like all about like nonviolence and like, you know, basically kind of like the make India great again type of stuff. And he preaches like all this peaceful stuff, but then he's like, you know, he's just one step ahead. Like he's always got like a secret weapon concealed. He's always hiding behind the violence until he can't anymore. At which point, like he just like has weapons in his shoes. Like at the moment, like the finale of this film, I don't want to reveal too much, but it's beautifully staged where it's like the perfect setting for a final duel of like this person who seems like he's preaching peace, but the further that you get into this world, you realize that's BS, and it just comes down to a big fight. And just like all the, you know, the supporting performances here are great. In terms of like what they're meant to fulfill, like in terms of like you have Charlotte Copley playing Tiger, who's the underground wrestling manager, and he's just like eats up his scenes. Like he's just like he's so perfectly built to be a villain. You know, like some people might remember Charlotte from District 9, and here he's just kind of eating up the scenery as best he can. 'Cause he's supposed to be like a showrunner for this wrestling ring, so obviously he's got to like, you know, play it up for the mic and everything. You have a gangster who turns an ally called Alfonso, played by Pito Bash, and he has this like eccentric nature where he's just like he's so into everything that you hope he turns to like the good side instead of favoring life of crime, and thankfully he does. Like he has such a wonderful sense of humor that, you know, he comes along with Monkey Man for the ride. Adding to that, you also have Vipin Sharma playing Alpha, the leader of the temple, who has like that perfect essence of like that wise nature, but also like that willingness to jump into action as well. So I really dug that performance as well. There's a lot of ground that Monkey Man covers, but only to like it feels like it covers just enough. Like there's a backstory behind Monkey Man. Like, you know, they slowly reveal, you know, his village being decimated and his mother being killed, and why he embraces like the monkey moniker for why he fights. And it just kind of just keeps proceeding. It goes off that premise and builds it fairly well. And it's just like Patel's filmmaking is rather exceptional here. Like there's a few moments where it feels like a little uneven with like the shots they choose in fights. Like we go from like handheld gritty, like, you know, all over the place camera work to like fairly still, you know, restrained and like zoom back camera work. But like to the film's credit, like for dicing up that type of like shooting style, he does get some pretty good shots out of it. And I think it does work to the benefit of a lot of these fight scenes, in addition to make it not seem as derivative, I think. Because, like I said, they mentioned John Wick in this film. So if you mention John Wick, you got to have the brass cojones to make sure that your filmmaking is good enough to match, or to either match or surpass John Wick. And while I don't feel like it surpasses it, like I did have a lot more fun with how John Wick was staged. I felt like it went a little bit more over the top for that type of setting. I do admire what Patel is doing with Monkey Man and how well he makes this concept work and has it say so much when it didn't have to. Like, it could have just been a simple revenge thriller of just Patel working his way up through this tower of corrupt people, killing them off one by one. But it actually manages to say a little bit more about like class divide and vengeance and like the nature of, you know, like fighting for something more than yourself and highlighting India's politics. So saying just a little bit more where there's a bit more substance to go with like the grit and the bloodshed. And for that, I think, you know, for a first film directed by Dev Patel, he does a pretty damn good job.